Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kid Lee, and this is going to be a sort of beginner's guide to WildStar. Looking over social media and different forums, when it comes to WildStar, a lot of people are asking the same questions sort of over and over and over. So I put this little video together to try and answer those questions. What I've done is I actually have a coffee cup here full of random WildStar questions, and I'm just going to pull them out one at a time and answer them for you guys. Now, before we get started here, I'm going to actually shrink myself down and play some random WildStar footage for you in the background, so I hope you enjoy that. So, let's go ahead and start with the questions. First question is, what is the base story for this game? Okay, you have the two factions of the Exiles and the Dominion. The Dominion are sort of a galactic empire type civilization or faction where they're the big bullies and they're pushing everybody around. The Exiles are sort of your ragtag group of refugees, you might want to call them, that are basically just trying to get away from the Dominion. And not to try and spoil too much of the lore for you, but basically the story goes that a group of exiles were either running away from the Dominion or exploring, and they just happened to find the planet Nexus, which was, well, as far as Dominion control, there was no Dominion control on the planet Nexus. So they decided to go ahead and land on Nexus and maybe try and start to rebuild their lives a little bit. But, you know, bad luck for them. The Dominion showed up, and the next stage of their battle between the two of them sort of commenced. So that's sort of the baseline story for it. Like I said, I don't want to spoil too much for you guys. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump on to question number 2. And it is, does the game have any kind of armor, die, or costume system? So, tackling the first one, yes, there is an armor die system, so that's pretty self-explanatory. As far as a costume system, yes, there is a costume system, and you are able to actually take any article of clothing, armor, whatever, and make that into a costume to hide what you are really wearing. So, you know, good deal on that. All right, next question. We have got, what is the deal with the path system in WildStar? Well, first of all, let me talk about what paths there are. You have the soldier, the explorer, the settler, and the scientist. So basically what this is when you're at the character creation screen. You know, with most MMOs, you pick your class and your race, but you also pick your path. And what this is, it's sort of additional content that you will see in game based on how you want to play. If you are the type that just likes to kill things and assassinate people, the soldier would be for you. If you like checking out every nook and cranny of the zones in the world, then explorer would be for you. If you like lore a lot, then the scientist will be for you. And finally, if you like to build things and you like to interact with people, then the settler is for you. So it's basically, like I said, just additional gameplay content based on how you like to play MMOs. Next question is, what kind of combat does WildStar have? I'm going to go ahead and break this down into two different categories. You have got their freeform targeting, which is basically the main combat, and then you have a side system that is called breakout gameplay. So, as far as the main combat, they've basically taken the traditional MMO tab targeting idea and mixed it in with sort of the MOBA-style skill shots, meaning that for most of your moves, you actually have to manually aim and execute the moves. Now, there are some AoEs, and there are some that once you have your target selected, you hit the button and it does its thing. And there's also some that are channeled abilities and so forth and so on. As far as the second part, which is the breakout gameplay, that is their answer to your stuns, your roots, your CCs, your unarm. So basically, if you get stunned, for instance, if you hit your F key fast enough, you'll be able to sort of get out of it sooner. Or the other ones are counters. They have a system in place where for their unarm, your actual weapon will get knocked out into the game space, and you have to actually run over or dive over and grab your weapon, and that's how you sort of counter, so to speak, the unarm. So that's sort of the basics of the combat system. It's very much an action-based combat system. It's very quick moving, and it's kind of similar to Terra Online. I think a lot of people are saying that maybe the Terra Online combat is just a little bit better, but everybody has their own opinion on that. There's a lot of people who are really enjoying the WildStar combat, and I definitely think it looks like a lot of fun, and I can't wait to try it. Okay, next question is, does the game have housing? And I can say, yes, it does have housing. In fact, it has an amazing housing system. Maybe the best housing system that's ever been done. I would say it's a very close tie between WildStar and the old Star Wars galaxies. The housing system does feature a full freeform placing system both inside the house and outside the house. As not only do you get a house, but you also get a piece of land called a sky plot. And you are able to put different buildings on your sky plot via a plug system. So you can actually have things like your gardens and your mines, and you can do crazy stuff. They have like windmills and barbecue pits and just all kinds of crazy things. And right now in the game, they have just tons and tons of options. So it looks to be an amazing housing system. So we'll see what they're able to do with it in the future. Next question is, will there be an open beta? Yes, there will be an open beta. It will be 1 month before the game releases. And that's all we really know at this point. Next question is, how does crafting work in WildStar? Okay, this is a rather complex subject. And with this being sort of just a basic Q&A for WildStar, I'm not going to get into it too much because I could probably spend like 3 hours talking about crafting. So, there's 2 main crafting types in WildStar. They have what they call circuit board crafting and coordinated crafting. You have trade skills and you have hobbies. You are allowed to have 2 trade skills each, and some of the trade skills are like weaponsmith, armoring, mining, outfitter, survivalist, technologist, architect, relic hunter, and tailor. And then the hobbies, everybody can have all the hobbies. When the game launches, there will be cooking and farming, and it sounds like fishing will be in the game sometime after launch. But it's considered a very detailed crafting system. It's much better than World of Warcraft or Star Wars The Old Republic or some of the more recent games that have come out. Is it as complex as Star Wars Galaxies? I don't think so. I would say it's close, but not quite. As far as how you get your resources, there's a few ways, but the 2 main ways are there's nodes out in the world, and the second one is I sort of just mentioned that with the housing system. On your housing sky plot, you are able to have like a mine or a garden or whatever you want. So that's sort of your second main way of getting resources. So that's just sort of a real quick overview of crafting. It looks like it's a great system, and from what I hear, a lot of people are really enjoying it. Okay, next question is, does the game have dungeons and or raids? And the answer to that is basically yes. So I'll go down just sort of a brief list of everything that the game has. There is an item known as adventures. And at the moment, they are scalable 1 to 5 person. Then you have what they call, if I can talk correctly here, you have what they call ship hand missions, which is basically another dungeon type. and I believe those are 5-man. As far as raiding, there are both 20-man and 40-man raids in this game. So they're definitely going right to the vanilla WoW old school raiding, so it should be a lot of fun. So next question is, when is WildStar going to be released? They are saying spring 2014. If I were to put my personal guess onto this, I think it's probably going to be a midsummer release. But again, that's just my guess. I'm guessing somewhere between probably June and August would be my guess. So I guess we will wait and see on that one. Next question is, what is the subscription model for the game? WildStar is going to go with a very standard MMO subscription. I don't think they've officially released prices yet, but you can pretty well guess it's going to be the same as everybody else. In addition to straight up subscription, they are also doing a cred system. It's a system that is also being used in EVE Online with some pretty good success from what I understand. But the basics behind this system is it allows you to use in-game credits to actually pay for your playing time. As far as free-to-play, there is no straight-up free-to-play options at this time, and I know a lot of people they're not going to like my answer here, but I hope that the game never goes free-to-play. Because generally, a free-to-play game just does not have the content, does not have, the good, so-called good people working on it. They're not able to spend the money and the time they need to make a successful game. So you've got to have a subscription-based game in order for a game to really, really work, in my opinion. And the next question is, what classes are in the game? All right, the classes in the game are the Warrior, the Esper, the Spellslinger, the Stalker, the Medic, and the Engineer. Just a brief overview on these. The Warrior is a melee class, uses a two-handed sword, and can be a tank or a DPS. The Esper is sort of your mage-type class, so they attack from a range, and they can be either a healer or a DPS. The Spellslinger is sort of a dual-wield pistol space cowboy type. They are also a healer or a DPS. The Stalker is your rogue type. They are a tank or a DPS. The Medic is also considered sort of a medium-range class. Their weapon of choice is a resonator. They are a DPS or a healer, as you can probably guess. And then finally, the Engineer, which is your pet class. They use sort of a rifle, launcher cannon, and have robotic pets. They are a DPS or a tank. And I've actually done a more of a detailed video. If you check out the class overview video that is on my channel. I know, shameless plug. All right, moving along. The next question we have got is, what types of PvP are in the game? I can say that WildStar is actually doing some really good stuff with PvP. A lot of games, when they come out at launch, maybe have one or two PvP styles like open world and battlegrounds, or open world and arenas. WildStar is throwing everything at us all at once when this game launches, which is fantastic. So let me just roll down the list here real quick. You've got both rated and unrated battlegrounds. You have got arenas, 2v2 and 3v3s. You've got open world PvP. They are having a player rating system. And finally, you've got war plots, which is something new for the MMO landscape as far as I'm aware. It's basically your guild or your PvP team has what I would call a fort. And it uses a very similar system to housing. And you're basically able to customize the offensive and defensive abilities of your fort and then go to war against like another guild or another PvP team, depending on how they do it. Details on this are still a little bit sketchy, So that's really all that I can tell you on that one. And we are on the actual final question for this deal. And the question is, what are the different races? So, as I mentioned briefly before, you've got the two factions, the Exiles and the Dominion. So, for the Dominion, you have the Cassians, which are basically I guess you could call them almost like an alien human race. You've got the Draken, which, if I were to describe them, I would have to say they're maybe a lion mixed with a devil. You know, they've got the horns and they've got the tails, and they're kind of hunched over a little bit, and they've got, you know, the fur going and that sort of thing. They have got the third one for the Dominion is the Makari, and they are literally like 7-foot tall robots. So if you want to customize a robot, you have the Makari. And then the fourth one for the Dominion is the Chua, which you could say it's a hamster mixed with a dog cat and an evil gremlin. So there's your Chua. Over on the Exile side, you have got the humans, which, well, are the humans. You have got the Granok, which are basically rock people. You have got the Orin, who are sort of they're humanoids, but you could say they're maybe mixed with a cat or a fox. They got the big ears and the bushy tails and that sort of thing. And then the last one for the Exiles is the Mordish. And people have been describing these guys different ways, but you could kind of say that they're zombie cyborgs. They're basically a humanoid race who got a disease across their entire race or species. And so they've had to sort of augment themselves with cybernetics and other things to try and, you know, combat this threat that they're having to face. But yep, that, ladies and gentlemen, will go ahead and do it for this sort of basic Q&A for WildStar. So if anybody has any further questions, if you want to put the questions below in chat, maybe I'll do a second one of these with a more advanced Q&A. So with that being said, everybody keep playing and have fun.